Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to number 5 of the drill pad. Let's fall in. Let's get this thing going. I want to give you 2 quotes, and I want to see if anybody can guess them, where they're from. If you have any level of integrity out there, if you can message me on Instagram where you think they're from, and if you get it right, maybe I'll cash up you $10. I don't know. We'll see. But the difference between a novice and a master is that a master has failed more times than a novice has tried. And my last one is, whether you win or lose, looking back and learning from your experiences is a part of life. Now, I'll give everybody like a couple seconds to think about what I think those 2 quotes mean to me. For me, I think it's foundation. And that's what I want to open up with today is foundation. What does it mean? And those 2 quotes have that in common. The routines you repeat, the failures you learn from, the discipline you build when no one's watching. Championships aren't built on competition day. They are built days, weeks, even years before that happens. A strong foundation is built through your failures. Every missed toss, every bad routine, every setback, whether that's in school, relationships, if you're in college, every difficult day that maybe you're going through is another brick to add on to that foundation. Think of it like a house. A house is not going to stand up if it has a soft foundation, if it has nothing there. You must build that foundation to be able to build that house up. Its foundation is where you develop those skills. Fundamentals give you the freedom to create. Elite drillers don't think about the fundamentals. They've repeated them so many times that they become instinct. That foundation gives those guys the confidence to perform under pressure. We've talked about it before, like, the difference between a winner and a champion, right? Nobody does it once and think they got it down. We all want to make this thing perfect. We all want to be as great as we can be. Champions practice until they can't get it wrong. That's exactly what this whole thing is about. The more you build your foundation into instinct, your confidence skyrockets. And then it becomes muscle memory, people. It becomes second nature. Like, I'm sure most of everybody, we all know how to left face, right face, and it's second hand. Or if you are a drill team kid or just somebody that's in ROTC or somebody who even broke away from ROTC or the military like yours truly, I still flank and column all of my walking day-to-day life. I'll walk down the halls at my work and I'll just randomly pivot a quick right flank, left flank, just because it's just that ingrained in me. It's instinct. That is what gets me to do those movements out of habit. Foundation can determine a leader. Drill doesn't just teach you movements. It teaches you accountability, consistency, humility, composure. Those habits carry with you in your young high school career, college, military service, your career, everyday life. There's not a day when if I am at work and if there's a screw up on my part and I mess up, where me being the man that I am, I take ownership of that. I have no problem raising my hand saying, hey boss, you know what? That was me. That was my mess up. Let me fix it. Taking accountability for my actions. And we talked about it last time about being consistent. It's what builds hard work. It's all about you wanting to be not just a better driller. Take drill out of it for a second. This is about you, the individual, being a better person, a better leader, and being those people that want to contribute to society in a good way. For a couple years now, I've been thinking about doing this thing, and I love the idea of giving back in some way, shape, or form. I've been doing that with my son's ROTC team, and now I feel like I can do it on a bigger platform and give all of you that same message. This with you has built into my foundation of wanting to give back, because I know the man that I am. I know the person that I want to continue to be, and is only taking it on that much bigger of a level. And being able to bring these guys on, talk to them, get their stories out there, get them to give you an insight on what these guys do on a regular basis or what they used to do on a daily basis, and to why they became so great, as to why maybe they haven't picked up a weapon in so long and they're still being talked about. Because to me, that's what I want here. My foundation is to be sure that you learn something from this thing. I want you all to know that I'm building this thing not for me. I don't like hearing myself talk any more than I have to, but I'm glad some of you all do. But enough of that. Being under pressure, like I said, is a good thing. For me, I work my best under pressure. Pressure reveals what your foundation is. When you step onto that competition floor or you're faced with a challenge in life, you don't just rise to the occasion. You fall back on your preparation, your foundation. When you step onto that competition floor, of course, you have to step up. But it's everything you've done up to that point. It's the hard work. It's the endless hours. It is the work and the effort that you've built into yourself to make yourself great. Hard work and winning doesn't just stop at I got it. It stops at I've mastered this thing. I've perfected this thing until I can't get it wrong. It's all about your mindset, how you want to look at this thing. You can easily just take this thing as you know what, maybe I don't take it that serious. Maybe drill isn't a way of life. That's fine. But I guarantee you, this goes into more than just that. This goes into everything that you will soon see into your future. And last but not least, your legacy is built on the foundation you leave in others. The greatest competitors eventually stop competing. The greatest leaders continue influencing others through the values they leave behind. I've said it before, one of my greatest leaders I ever met, like I mentioned last time, he said, Sergeant A, through that door, we can be facing death. Do you trust me? And you bet your ass I do, because leadership came down to 3 things for me. You have to be able to teach, motivate, and inspire. And I carry that with me to this day, that it's what these guys are leaving behind. Alejandro Polino is a great example. He believes in hard work, and his efforts reflected, and they still reflect to this day. That guy is still grinding, and if he's listening, I'm throwing his name out there again, because it's getting me into the mindset of I can't just stop at, okay, I'm okay at this. I have to keep moving forward. I want to be able to be sure that whether this thing stays on for up until we do the 10th episode, the 100th, if it ever gets there, the 20th, or maybe it just stops. But as long as I can leave something here for you all to listen, fall back on, and you take away something from this, then I've done everything that I wanted to accomplish. Foundation isn't measured by how high you climb. It's measured by how much you can support. Drill teaches us how to build that foundation through failure, discipline, humility, repetition. Whether you're chasing a national title, earning a commission, or becoming a better leader, everything starts with the foundation you build when no one's watching. I personally think that this couldn't be a better place to end for everything I learned with Robert Zyko. The man is a leader among men. He is a competitor. He is an inspiration to more than just what drill is, and you will all learn that today just as much as I did the other day when I was talking to him. Everybody that's listening, I want you all to keep in mind, while we're listening to this thing, I want you to think of one thing, and that's foundation. Because everything that Robert Zyko and I had talked about is exactly why he was so successful in drill, and why he is still one of the biggest influences the drill world has ever seen. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you your 2017 World Drill Champion, Robert Zyko. Zyko, can you go ahead and give yourself a little intro you want people to know?
Yeah, sure. My name's Rob Zyko. I'm a captain in the U.S. Army. I live down in the Washington, D.C. area at this time. Originally, I'm from Staten Island, New York, up in New York City. Did Navy JROTC over at Curtis High School. And then I went to college over at Norwich University up in Vermont. Got my commission as an intelligence officer in the Army National Guard in 2014. And about 15 years later, here I am.
So I hear everything about Norwich, because everybody knows the shock platoon. And when you were doing that, I'm assuming you did the shock platoon. I don't know if you did or didn't.
So I actually did. I wanted to. I definitely wanted to. When I got to the school, I had been wrestling in high school, and I wanted to keep wrestling when I got to college. Unfortunately, wrestling and drill were kind of, just due to timing constraints, it was virtually impossible to do both. So I made the decision to actually wrestle full-time while I was in college. And then I would just continue to drill in the off season. Okay.
So I was looking at it on YouTube, right? And I was like, let me look back at some of Zyko's old stuff. And I was looking at at all your different years of worlds, and there was these other videos of you doing wrestling. I mean, I don't know how big the Zyko family tree, how deep that thing goes, or how narrow that tree is, but I saw Robert Zyko wrestling video. I wonder if this guy does that. How far did that go? When was it just college and kind of stopped, or do you do it with have you thought about doing it with the Army or the National Guard?
Yeah, so I started wrestling freshman year of high school, and it was the same exact time frame I started drilling, right? I was at JROTC, I joined my high school wrestling team, and I joined the drill team, and just one random drill practice. I was still fairly new to what drill was, like just the concept of it. And one of our seniors, he was just getting ready to get out the door, graduate. He just started doing some basic spins with the rifle, and I immediately gravitated to it. So while I was still wrestling in the winter, a lot of our drill meets and a lot of our heavier drill, more the intensive drill practices were in the spring. It always worked out for me where I was able to kind of train and do my wrestling in the fall and the winter, and then transition right into drill and fully commit to drill team. And then obviously when I got to college, that wasn't the case. So I decided to just wrestle. And I always used wrestling as it was always my sport. And drill was kind of the way I like to express myself. It was always my kind of release from all the stress of wrestling, all that physical, all the training I was doing. So everything, they were just kind of married to each other throughout my competitive career. After college, I did a lot of coaching more so in wrestling, while still drilling kind of here and there, still trying to compete, just trying to get better. And then I think 2016, I applied for the All-Army Wrestling Program. I go on orders out to Fort Carson, Colorado, and I was essentially training with the World Class Athlete Program, which is the Olympic caliber athletics that the Army has.
Man, that is awesome.
Yeah, I'll say to this day, it was probably the best orders I ever had while serving. But it was essentially a 6-month camp where they beat you down, and you're training twice a day, but it's all you do. And you're living on base, you're training, you're right across the street from where you trained. Everything kind of culminates with the Armed Forces Championships, which it's the Army versus the Navy versus the Air Force versus the Marine Corps, all the other services. And depending on your level of success, they'll invite you back or they'll try to extend your orders. And they ended up bringing me back out the following year in 2017, which was when I was actually made an alternate for the competitive team.
Man, that is so sweet. I knew that the military has their competitive sports, but I didn't know how, it was something you were actually assigned to. I know I had a buddy of mine who did the Marine Corps football team.
Oh, yeah.
And he never told me, I mean, I also never asked, but I didn't know that it was actually something where you actually physically went on orders, and that was your job, was just to get paid to train and just work out and just kick ass.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was such a rewarding experience physically. It was just being out in Colorado Springs. It's such a beautiful area. And coincidentally in 2017, so I made that year as an alternate. So at that point, I was on orders for about 6 months. I was just about to come off orders. And then about a week and a half when I got off orders was when the World Championships were in 2017. So I effectively got off orders about 70 pounds lighter than what I originally was, and then had to kind of transition right away into, I have to remember my world's routine. I have to make sure my uniform fits. I kind of I had to do a real rapid transition into, I got to get ready to go to Florida soon.
I mean, I don't know how many other people know that you're doing wrestling and worlds all on the same plate. And I want to touch back on your college moments. And were there moments when in college when you realized that drill was prepping you for something bigger than competition? Because I know when in college it was more focused on wrestling and you were doing drill more as a hobby. But in your college years, did you feel like for that next phase of going into the service, did you feel like you were getting ready for that next phase of life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think more so than anything, it helped me with was my confidence. I was still following a path to becoming a military officer. It was just a bit skewed compared to traditional ROTC students. But I was enlisted first. I went through the officer candidate program, but I ended up commissioning on the same track with all of my fellow cadets at Norwich, where drill really came in and was helping me with my confidence in a weird way, because I knew like with drill, I felt like I was in control. I knew what I was doing and wasn't sure what kind of leader I was going to be at that point. But there's those times when you got to realize you got to reflect on like what you do know, let's try to almost like reflect on, hey, remember some of the cool things you've gotten to do. And a lot of the cool things I've gotten to do at that point were largely revolved around drill. I kind of carried that with me into as I became more of a senior leader was understanding like, hey, just be confident in yourself. That way you can make good decisions for your soldiers.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know for my experience, I mean, I never went ROTC and my later years when once I got out of the military, I went to college, but just doing from JROTC in high school into the military, you learn how to expand that kind of leadership qualities and the leadership tactics that you want to carry on as a leader. And through your experience leading or competing, has drill ever changed the type of leader that you wanted to become? Like, especially now that you're in the military?
It definitely, especially when it comes to like more ceremonial aspects of military life, I absolutely see it. Especially at my current job, I'm kind of close to the flagpole where kind of pomp and circumstance and a lot of celebration. We got 9/11 coming up. That's a huge remembered holiday, of course, and it's the 25th anniversary of that. And all the formalities and understanding the solemnness of those ceremonies and how important it is to really put on a good presentation to remember all that we've lost. That's where I've kind of gravitated towards, just kind of understanding, reflecting back on all the training I did specifically regarding drill and just kind of, carrying those things forward, not to make me look good, but to ensure that we're remembering the fallen appropriately.
Of course. It being 9/11 and it also being so close to home, I'm sure that's affected your kind of outlook and how much tender love and care that you give to this thing. Because I mean, for me, my whole purpose of going into the Marine Corps was because 9/11, and you're right next door. I mean, I can only imagine that played a factor in your service as well.
Absolutely. Funny enough, my enlistment date was September 12th, 2011, and I had just gotten into a unit that had just gotten back from Afghanistan. Yeah, I had to mature real fast. I understood it from my foxhole, being a kid in the city during 9/11, but I didn't really understand the gravitas of it all. For the actual folks that are going out and actually serving. That first drill, where I had to integrate with these guys that had just gotten back from Afghanistan. So it was very. I had to mature real quick, and it was just a very humbling experience.
I completely understand. When I was with my units, it was just a constant rotation. You see these guys coming in and out, in and out. And for myself, being away and serving and being in those situations and the reasons why you joined just only made me reflect more as to why it's so important. And for those cadets that are listening who hope to serve one day, what advice would you give them about using drill as a tool for personal or professional development instead of just maybe chasing trophies?
So one thing I didn't really grasp in high school, in JROTC, and even in ROTC, going to Daytona, is the amount of like senior leaders, service members who served for decades, even our judges down in Daytona. A lot of those folks are TDY, drill instructors, senior enlisted folks. There's just so much experience in the Ocean Center outside of drill. And I think you could understand this too. Like when you join the service and you're on the line, you're with your soldiers, you don't really have that kind of seniority among your normal day-to-day ranks. And I think it's really important, especially as you're younger and you're thinking about joining the military, is to have those conversations with those folks who have been serving for decades and have a vast amount of experience, but to really help you understand the significance of not only what you're doing with your JROTC or with drill, but they can help you and advise and mentor you as you transition into the next stage of life, which is if you do decide to go into the service or college, kind of carrying that stuff forward with you and just having really good mentorship.
Yeah, I remember my instructors in high school. These guys were Gulf War veterans, and they carry so much history with them and so much knowledge. And those are some things that I wish that I actually took the time to ask them and really dive deep and really get to know them. One of my favorite instructors, he was a Tech Sergeant Tedley. He passed away from cancer maybe, oh man, I think it's been maybe 3 or 4 years now. And man, I was like, I wish I could just have like that moment, whether it was just getting to know them a little deeper or trying to get some more insight, because if I had that one-on-one kind of mentorship level to prep me for my service, I probably would have been, I mean, at least I think I had a pretty successful career, but it probably would have helped me that much more. I want to evolve into when you were performing. When you start performing your solos and you watch them, when you watch a solo performance, what's the first thing that you're evaluating before the routine is even over? Because I could be wrong, but didn't you judge at nationals a few times or once or twice?
Yeah. So I got to judge, I think it was 2022 or 2023. I know there's a still of my face somewhere on Independent Drill from when I was at the ceremony. I don't know if you've seen it, but I know there's a still somewhere of my face. But yeah, I did get to judge one year, and I didn't realize how hard it was in the sense of just the amount of time and effort. And I give all that credit to Sam and Justin and all the folks down at the center that make that possible. Like all the logistics that were involved was a lot of standing, I will say.
I I can believe that. But when you were judging, uh, what were those first few things that you looked at? Like, was there something specific you were looking for? Was it like the team that maybe you looked at, and it was maybe before you even looked at the cadets, maybe you looked at the instructors? What were some of the things that you looked at there?
So for me, specifically with the team, I look at body language pretty heavily, right? I know I've seen the teams practicing, like I, I see how they're carrying themselves throughout, just marching from one pad to wherever they're going to go on stage. And, the things I always am very keen on, especially nowadays, that the kind of the bar for what the standard bar is for quality, like exhibition drill, in my case, I just find the standard so high that I look at the body language because that is where I can usually get indications of kind of how the performance is going to go throughout the rest of it. If you're kind of timid or you're hesitant, that could lead into follow on, maybe some stumbling or drop, unfortunately. Usually I see that through the body language and how they present themselves first and foremost.
Yeah, when I'm coaching, I try to get them in that headspace. For me, I don't treat them like an ROTC unit or an ROTC drill team. I treat them almost like a football team. I used to coach my younger son's football team, and you get them in a huddle, you hype them up. Your kids that are in football, like, you don't let this other team leave happy. And me giving them that kind of motivation, that kind of environment to where they get in that right headspace
Yeah,
is like, you got to be confident. And regardless, if you're in a mess up, you better do this at 1,000 miles an hour.
exactly. See, I think the mental aspect is just not, if not more important than the actual physical act itself.
Right. And I express to them all the time, whether it is inspection, reg, color guard X, all four of the major phases, there's no drill team that is out there that is 100% perfect. And if there is, I'd be shocked. But I try to express to them, if you mess up, hey, guess what? Maybe they didn't see it. Your bearing should be stone cold, like you never messed up. And I think that's super awesome that you got to judge though, because you said that was 2021,
I want to say it was I want to say it was 2023. It might have
23.
been it would have been 23, I think. Yeah, because I had just gotten off of deployment, my first deployment, and I think that was 22. And then I kind of just went down as a spectator and just was. I did the rare thing of just going down and actually enjoying myself. Like I wasn't competing, I wasn't judging. I was just strictly there as a spectator. And then the following year is when I showed up at when I when I asked to judge. I was like, I would love to help out.
And that has to be a different feel, right? Just being in uniform and putting down the weapon and picking up the pen and pad and judging. Because for me, if I was getting back in my uniform and doing that, it'd be a little weird for me. I mean, were you kind of moved on with this? I'm not like kind of performing as much where it kind of felt more natural? Or do you see yourself judging nationals again?
I certainly do. I think with everything I got going on kind of personally, I would certainly like to make my way back to down to Daytona, without question. At the same time, you know how the military is. A lot of the times I would block out time to go down, and the military would kind of take me away from it. And as I get older, I realize like I don't really have those obligations, and I can actually commit and have that time to myself. And hey, I want to go down to Daytona and help out again. So I certainly do see myself going back down. To what capacity, I'm not entirely sure, but I certainly do see myself going back down there.
So what you're saying is cough, cough, wink, wink, that whether it's judging or spectating or possibly performing, this isn't the end of Rob Zyko's story.
Oh, it's. I would say it's never a goodbye. It's always a see you later, right? So I retired in 21. I think that was my last world. But yeah, it was right before my first deployment. So I did that. That was kind of my swan song. And the desire to compete isn't something that comes back, but it's always the desire to perform and actually pick up the rifle is something it always sticks in the back of my head of because I still have my rifle. I still once in a while I get that urge. Well, like you're in the department store and you see that stick's kind of the same length of a rifle. I think I said that. And then you drop it and there's the really loud noise and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" Like you just kind of awkwardly walk away.
I'm right there with you because I've been doing a lot of yard work lately over the summer, and I'm at Home Depot or Lowe's 60% of the time when I'm off, and I'll be walking through everything and I'll see that shovel.
Mm.
And I'll pick it up and do a little flick and put it back down, or I'll go buy all the lumber and see a piece of 2x4 that's just a little taller than a weapon. I'm like, oh, let me see if this thing is balanced properly. So I get it. I'm right there with you. I can only assume that the guys that have done this thing for years, that truly loves this thing as the sport, who they see that shiny long stick object and they're just like, I need to pick that up.
Yeah.
So no,
Exactly.
I get it. So I want to know if you had to describe your style of drill in 3 words, what would they be and why?
Oh man, my 3 words, it would be for the crowd, always. But like I said, I always found it as kind of my relief, my chance to like kind of express myself. When I was training intensively, I didn't have a lot of obligations. I really want to get good at this. But at the same time, it wasn't really to win. Like I just wanted to put on a good show. It was like the performer in me just wanted to make sure that, these people are invested their time and effort to be down here. I should give them a really good show. And I could count maybe one time where my thought process wasn't like that out of the many years of performing and, traveling and getting to actually do my routine. But I always try to keep that first and foremost is like, remember why you're here. And it was always to just put on the best show that I could, get the crowd going. And of course, the judges all mean mugging and inspecting you and making sure everything looks good. And I'm just like, man, I'm just going to rip it, have a good time, get the crowd going.
That is a chef's kiss. It's so funny because just talking to Matt Winling and Alejandro Polino, they say almost the exact same thing. This is an art form. This is for the people that are watching. And I think that is so cool because I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I've never stepped onto the world's floor, but I'm sure there may be some guys out there that maybe it's a selfish style drill, but obviously some guys, they're definitely chasing for that title and maybe taking a step back, and maybe some of these drillers ought to realize maybe I ought to stop taking it so serious and just have a good time with it.
Yeah. The one time I didn't think that way, and I can tell you it was 2018. I was coming off of winning in 2017, and for some reason it stuck in my head. I was like, I really want to try to repeat. I think I could do it. And then unbeknownst to myself at the time, right? Hindsight 2020, I realized that I wasn't really happy going up to that world. I was confident, but my focus was I still wanted to put on a good show, but part of there was just a bad thought. I considered a bad thought. My perception was I really want to repeat. And with that training cycle, I ended up taking 5th, which is nothing to sneeze at. At the end of the day, I was obviously just grateful to be down there and actually get to perform. I reflect on that time of my competitive era or my era of competition. And I think I really should have just approached that like everything else.
Can't be put more well said. I think it goes to everything that you were mentioning. It's all about the mindset. You should have fun doing the things that you love, and the drill is definitely one of those things.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome, man. And
Yeah.
for you, I know stepping onto that floor, it's not no walk in the park. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, we're having a blast. We're having fun doing this thing. But I know that pressure still kind of exists. It lingers. But right before you step onto that floor, though, what's the routine that you do to get in that right mindset? Is there a song that you listen to? What is it that calms your nerves? What is it that that gets you zoned in to keep you remembering what the routine is? What does that routine look like to be sure that you're ready to go on?
So that kind of morphed actually. So originally, like, so 2015, like, we'll wind the clocks back. God, 2015 was a long time ago now, huh? Right. So we go back to 2015. I remember. So I had my routine prepared about 3 months out. It was like I had finalized, quote unquote, my routine, and then I spent 2 months prior to just physically keeping myself in shape, doing a lot of run throughs, muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory, and then I got down there and I remember I drove down with James Fisher, a fellow former shot platoon guy, and again it was just endless repetitions, and then I got the bright idea about 18 hours before I was performing that, I think I could throw a bayonet and still do this routine. So I started doing run throughs with the regular rifle and then throwing the bayonet on, and then I take it off again. And I'm like, oh, well, I really like this, but I didn't really focus. You speak of like muscle memory and stuff like that. I always gave myself points in my routine where I could flex and kind of something like a point of my routine where I always thought I could just kind of get away with. Instead of doing it this way, I could do it this way, and then still do the same transitions and everything. So that helped me with the muscle memory aspect of some of the more difficult segments of my routine, while just holistically being able to know the routine like the back of my hand. But as I got older, and I kind of picked up on kind of my style, and I kind of had a vague work plan. I could be a little more creative. It wasn't as much as muscle memory as it was just kind of silence and just having that time before you perform to actually just take a breath and remember why you're doing this. This is just another run through. You always just be happy to be here. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and leave it all out there. And I think I've said this now 3 times since I've been doing this thing and mentioning about how, I don't think anybody will see Ed Andrade come out of retirement to step on the world's floor. And the more I've been practicing and the more I'm getting more comfortable with different movements, I'm like, okay. I was like, you know what? Like, I was like, that ain't bad. Let's try this. Let's do that. And I'm just like, oh, shit. I'm just like, what am I getting myself into? And I talked to my best friend, and when I was a senior, he was a sophomore, and he was way more talented than I was. And I was talking to him, and he's like, it's not too late. I was like, I don't know. And then I spoke to I don't know if you know Chris Haley.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I know him.
Yeah, so Chris Haley was on my team back in the day, and he was a sophomore when I was a senior as well. I had dinner with him a few weeks back, and he told me the same thing. He's like, Ed, hey, maybe there can be a Chris Haley, Edward Tandem. Like, I was like, I don't know, man. I love the way that I hear you guys talk about it, and it makes me feel like there's something that I've missed out on. And I'm just like, damn it. I'm like, you know what? Like maybe Robert Zyko is going to be the guy to bring me out of it, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the next driller will have something a little bit more inspiring that'll kick me off that cliff.
I have settled into my unk status. I can't speak for others, but
see, and that's where I'm trying to stay. That's where I want to be. That's home. That's safe, and I have the boys on my team, they'll be like, oh, Mr. Edward, if you go to nationals, are you going to do worlds? I was like, no. And they're like, come on. And I'm like, you know what? All right, fine. I was like, I'll tell you what, you bring me a state title, I'll sign up for worlds. So unfortunately it hasn't happened yet, but hopefully maybe this year.
That's a plot of a Disney movie.
Yeah. I know. It's going to be like Mighty Ducks 2.
Yeah, that's it.
So, and speaking about coaching, like I said, I do this. And I know you helped out more on the wrestling side of coaching, but nonetheless, I know we can still transfer in other places. But if you could spend 1 hour coaching every cadet in America, what's the one message you'd make sure every single one of them heard?
That's a great question. I would tell them to tell a story with your routine, right? I think a lot of the more successful routines that you see, whether it be solo, group, whatever you call it, the more creative you are, the more it shows in your routine, and it makes it stand out. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I would treat your performances like that. You're telling a story to the crowd, right? You want to keep them invested, right? So there's going to be peaks and valleys of your routine. So it's very much storytelling, just with rifles and heavy footsteps and salutes. Yes, there should be the precision aspect, right? Military flavor. At the same time, there's so much creativity you can put into your routine to really make it stand out and really make it your own. And I think that's something that not only the judges appreciate, right, with the creativity, but also the crowd will appreciate it. It'll be something for them to remember.
I wholeheartedly agree. I try to tell Sean, he's my commander soloist on the team. He's, like I said, this kid is eons beyond anything I've seen, and he's honestly, if he, like I've mentioned it before, if he competed in Worlds today, I think he'd give a lot of these guys a run for their money. And that was one of the first lessons I tried telling him, is that you can't just get out on the floor and quad this, quad that, and a six-tuple Hell's Whip and whatever. You got to actually be able to tell everybody everything. You have to map it out. It can't just be something you vomit onto a floor. And
sure.
Matt Windling said it best the other time that I spoke to him. It's all about adding more paint to your craft, adding more vocabulary to your dictionary. And it's good to hear that I got other guys like yourself that are sending that same message, that would want to bleed that same message, because I think that is super ultra important. Because there's some routines I've looked back on YouTube and I've saw where these guys are super talented, but they move that weapon around, and it's just like, I get it, you're talented, but man, like if you just had a little bit more structure, I think you would be undoubtedly better. So I think that is super awesome.
At some point, I would say we all did, right? Because you and I are of the same age. We didn't have this vast vocabulary and all these different resources to learn.
Right.
It was, I'm going to go on this new website called YouTube and type in rifle spinning and see what comes up. And you start imitating almost, frame by frame. Okay, he's doing it this way. All right, let me try it this way. And once you figure out how he did it, then it's like, all right, now what? Then that's where that creativity really comes in.
Yep, exactly. It's funny. Matt Windling and I talked about it before. S and I had the tapes. We had just the beginning of YouTube before it was ever on your phone. Because if I had the ability to put YouTube on my phone back in the day when I was texting T9 to everybody and be able to go outside and watch the video and try to replicate, I'd probably be a way better driller than what I was. But that is hilarious. When your military career and your drill career are both behind you, what do you hope people will remember about you? Not about what you've won, but about who you were. What would you hope people said, man, freaking Robert Zyko was X? What would you hope that would look like?
I would hope that if I left any impression, that I was a good person, right? Person who could be a friend when need be a leader when need be. I would certainly want them to have their trust in me. I'd want them to know me as someone, they could confide with, they could trust. Just being an overall good person, someone that didn't judge, someone that can joke around, throw jabs, and someone that you can have a God's honest conversation with and, not be ashamed. Just have that ability. Just be that person that, hey, I need to talk. Like, hey, I'm here. We need, that's really what it boils down to it. That's what I want to be remembered for the most.
Toy Story had it best. You got a friend in me, buddy. And I try to be that mentor, that advocate for the boys team as much as I can. I can definitely be very intimidating at times because sometimes the Marine side of me comes out. I try to do my best to tame that side, but I think that's super important. Just trying to be a person there for anybody, whether that's someone to talk to or listen to, and having that kind of characteristic and somebody is rare to come by now, because unfortunately sometimes there are people out there where it's all about me and it's never about the other person. And I know from my military experience, it's never going to be about yourself. It's always about the mission, your Marines or your subordinates under you, and making sure that in the worst situations possible, you can make the best out of all the situations.
On the leadership front, and just because you brought it, whenever I am in charge of soldiers, right, I'm a staff officer. I don't usually command a bunch of soldiers, but occasionally I do. I always approach it with, I have two customers. I have my soldiers first, and then I have my hire, right? So my soldiers are usually analysts. They're more, their weapon is their brain and a computer. My goal is to get them to do their best job. And then the other customer is my hire, right? If I embolden them, if I embolden my analysts, my junior leaders to do their best efforts, treat each other kind, right? It'll reverberate up the chain of command with how their output is, right? With all that being said, also, I also feel that my job is to protect them from the higher headquarter bureaucracy that may or may not come down.
Yes. Yes, that
Right.
is super important. Yes. Rob, I can't appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy day to talk to me, to get your message out there. And you've been a big influence on the drill world, on your wrestling side. You're Norwich alumni. You're an officer in the military. Your story is only getting bigger. And for you to take the little bit of time that you have and give it to me so I can do this thing with you, I greatly appreciate it, man. I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate you, man. I think what you're doing is outstanding. Just listening to what you have you spoken with Matt and Alejandro. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. And I only ask that you just keep up the great work.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And now that we're going to be wrapping this up, I'd love it if you could take the floor and close us out.
Yeah. Drill is different to everybody. To some it's a sport, to some it's an art form, to some it's their ability to express themselves, right? When it's all said and done, when it comes down to actually going out and doing the thing, however you're approaching it, is to just go out there, with all that you've got and have fun doing it. Because if you're not having fun, why bother?
Amen, brother.
Most people will never understand what it takes, the hours, the sacrifices, the bruises, the failures, all for a few minutes on a competition floor. This is a world where perfection isn't expected, it's demanded. A world of intense formation, razor-sharp movements, and thrilling tosses that leave crowds speechless. The difference between a winner and a champion: a winner practices until they get it right. A champion practices until they can't get it wrong. And yet, despite the talent, dedication, and passion, drill remains one of the most overlooked competitive activities in the nation. And that changes here. This is where the stories are told, where the legends are remembered, where the future of drill is built. I am Robert Benton.
Yes, I appreciate you, man. Like I said, I can't appreciate you and your time because I know you're a busy guy. And do you have any last shout outs anybody want to throw out there too?
I got to shout out your commander. What's his name?
It's Sean Massey.
Sean Massey. Sean Massey. Hear these words. You're going to do fine. Be creative and have fun. Keep training.
Yeah, he's going to love that. I greatly appreciate that. And for everybody else listening out there, if you have any questions, comments, and concerns, you have questions for the next guy, let me know. Email me, Instagram, th3drillpad, th3drillpad. I appreciate you all. You're all dismissed. Take care.